Hello everyone. I'm so sorry if I'm not visible properly because there isn't any electricity here. I'm Astha, and I have been vegan and a vegan activist for last three and a half years. And the journey it was like really great. I got to meet many vegans and vegan activists who are doing so much for the animals. So, a very warm welcome to Ulvili. Ulvi is a weekly series hosted by vegans, and here they share stories of how and why they became vegan, how it has impacted their lives, relationships, and the way they see the world. The series is co-hosted by Kerala Vegan Moment and Sthala. I would like to say two lines about Sthala. Sthala is passionate about building communities for social change. It brings like minded people together, help them share, learn, engage, and grow as a community. For today's session, we have Drishti as the moderator. Drishti is a vegan since last 2.5 years. She was the HR and now she's on a career break since last 8 years to raise her kids. She is a mother of two kids. The elder one is of 7 years and the younger one is of 4 years. She's raising both of them vegan since February 2020, which is really great. Drishti will now explain all of us the format for today's session. Please follow her instructions for smooth functioning of the session. Over to you, Drishti.
Yes, thank you very much, Astha. And I would like to say something about Astha. Astha has been following Ulvili from the start of this event. All the sessions she has attended, and in each session, she has been giving all encouraging comments and boosting the morale of Team Ulvili. So, thank you very much, Astha, for being part. Now she is part of Ulvili team. So yeah, so let's start the session. Let's understand the meaning of word Ulvili. Okay, so Ulvili is a Malayalam word which means the calling or the call from. Okay, so we started this episode event around 15th of August 2020, and the main idea behind starting this event is like uh, we wanted to make the people understand the philosophy, vegan philosophy, and due to lockdown, not much of street activism and all things are not possible. So how to make people understand these vegan matters? And so we started by sharing personal stories of vegans. So from 15th August 2020, every Saturday 8 p.m. we are sharing one story of a vegan person. And as of now, we have finished 8 episodes. And it was really nice. We met so many people. We got connected with so many other vegans, and we were able to inspire so many people who wanted to transition. And so we have a group of Ulvili, wherein after each episode, people who are interested into getting into vegan things, we help them, we support them by sharing how we are going about it. And so we have a WhatsApp group and people join after each episode. And we are also happy to inform that through we have a Facebook page which has reached 1,000 people online, and that is a great thing. So now today's episode is a special episode of raising vegan because as a parent or as a caretaker, whenever we, okay, let's say adults, we will transition to becoming vegan, or we will adopt the vegan lifestyle. But when it comes to kids, parents want to be doubly sure that whatever I'm giving, mainly the diet, is nutritionally sufficient and it is healthy. So
Drishti, sorry to interrupt you. Everyone, please keep yourselves on mute so that there isn't any disturbance. So please, thank you.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, thank you, Astha. Yeah, please keep your mic mute. Yeah, so that is also one of the part. Like for today's session, when we are having discussions, kindly mute your mic. And after a particular small discussions, you can unmute your mic and ask question related to that question or discussion. And in case you are not able to do it, you can share your questions in the chat box also. So we have Preeta Rajan. She is also a vegan activist, and she is the main source of our inspiration behind this particular episode and the whole Ulvili series. She will be handling the questions of the chat box. And yeah, so that is the format. So after each particular discussion, you can raise questions, raise your queries to a particular panel member. So today we have wonderful moms, I can say super moms, who are joining us. We have Neetu, Anu, we have Manisha and Hema, who have been raising their kids vegan, and they are confidently doing it, and they want to share their experiences and stories with us. So without taking much time now, I would like Neetu to tell more about herself. Hi, Neetu.
Hi, Drushti. Good morning
Yeah.
from America.
Yeah, she is from US, so it's good morning there. Yeah, hello.
Thank you for inviting me to speak over here. I'm always happy to share my story about raising my son vegan, who's 9 years old. He's always been vegan. I had a vegan pregnancy because I was vegan since last 23 years. So by the time I got pregnant with him, I was already well versed with the vegan lifestyle. So it wasn't very difficult. Having him, like the pregnancy was really good. It's the best time of my life, I guess, unlike a lot of people would think. So it really worked out, and I have a very active, academically very smart child, and I have nothing to complain. I really feel blessed that he's also taken it up, and I'm an activist. I do animal rights activism. So he's a little activist. I have been always taking him with me. So I'm blessed. I feel good, and I can talk a lot about this in today's session.
Yes, wonderful, Neetu. We have Anupriya. Hi, Anupriya. She is joining us from Singapore, and it's really late there, but she agreed that anything for good cause. So I will join and enlighten people with my vegan journey. Hi, Anu.
So namaste from Singapore, and really, really happy to see so many beautiful faces out here. And my story. So I was what they call almost vegetarian, in the sense that I would eat meat, fish, just for the liking of the taste, once in a while. And I was breastfeeding my younger one, and at that time I saw this PETA ad where a human mother is chained and a guy comes and snatches away the baby, and that that hit me really hard. I was unaware of all this, and how I could relate so much to it that I didn't want to be the cause of the pain to any other mother. And overnight, I decided I'm just going to ditch dairy, meat, anything from plant, and I turned plant-based and gradually a vegan. And I'm blessed that I have a beautiful family. They also joined this vegan lifestyle, and yeah, we are a happy vegan family, and always ready to, and really excited. And, we try to get anyone who wants to be on board to the vegan journey. And when I turned vegan, my son, when he turned vegan, he was around 7, and the little one was around, she was under 1 year old. And 8 years, and it has been a wonderful time.
Yes, awesome. Yes, thank you very much, Anu. So I can identify my story also with you. Like when we become vegan, the whole family will become vegan. They will, without their support, we cannot do much. So definitely family matters a lot. So we have another wonderful activist mom here, Hema, joining us from Bangalore. Hi, Hema.
Hi, Drishti. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So please, can you give some few words about your journey?
Yeah. So my memories of childhood is growing up with animals, and didn't really socialize much. I guess that's why I bonded with animals more. So my love for animals always had this conflicting fight in my head. Why do we eat animals? Why do we drink this milk? We shouldn't be doing that. And that I just grew up eating a little bit of things here and there, meat and chicken. But as I grew up and as I became more and more independent and learned more and more about things, I went vegetarian for a very long time. And yeah, after a while, there was just again a conflicting fight in my head. How am I ever going to live without sweets? But somehow something led to another, and then I turned vegan. And yeah, I have a beautiful child for about 6 years now. I went vegan when he was about 9 months old, and he's been vegan ever since. He's again a beautiful child, like Neetu was saying. He's a little activist. He comes with me for outreaches. He's learned a lot about what happens to these animals, and he knows the pain that they go through. So yeah, it's been a beautiful, liberating journey that I wouldn't swap for anything else.
Awesome, very good. So that was Hema for us, and we will talk more about her activism and how she handles, how she helps her child to understand more about the veganism part later in the discussion. So we have Manisha joining us today, another super vegan mom. She's an IT professional and she's working also, and in that she manages to make awesome food that is vegan for her kids. So yes, Manisha, more from you too. Hi.
Drishti, and it's a real honor to be a part of this discussion and this session today. I am currently I reside in Delhi, but my hometown is Kolkata, and I come from a very hardcore meat-eating community, meat-eating, fish-eating community. So I was raised, I grew up eating a lot of meat and copious amounts of fish, and of course, lots of dairy and a lot of animal products. And I gave up eating meat at a very young age because with I saw a lot of roadside chicken shops where I saw chicken being slaughtered, and that time I was in my teens and I was horrified, and obviously I made my decision then and there. So I gave up eating meat at a young age, but I continued to eat fish and eggs and dairy, because anyway the cruelty of fish never actually came. It was not very visible, because even when you see roadside fish shops, the fish there are already dead, so you don't see that act of slaughter. So for me it was not very easy to connect with the suffering of fish. And for eggs and milk, like a lot of us have this misconception that there's no cruelty involved in eggs and milk, and I continued happily eating them till I was in college. And a friend of mine, I don't remember the exact chain of events, but someone forwarded me a chain mail, and that was way back in I've been vegan for 13 years now. So 13 years back we did not have Facebook, but we had something called the system of chain mails. So someone sent a chain mail to me about the condition of battery hens, egg laying hens. And I was horrified, actually. I couldn't, get over it. It was so shocking that, I gave up eating eggs overnight. And then, even then I wasn't a vegan, but yes, I gave up eating eggs immediately. And then, I started researching more about dairy and, what is vegan and why people are vegan. Because, at that time I think there was something called Orkut, and on Orkut, this word vegan used to appear, because I was anyway into a lot of I used to be a rescuer, an animal rescuer, and obviously I was connected to a lot of such groups. So obviously, the algorithm used to give these words vegan on my feed. And one day I just decided to see what that meant, because for me, I thought it just meant vegetarian. It was a shock. And I Googled the word, researched more on why vegan. And then I also came to know about the cruelty of the dairy industry, and then I made up my mind. But yes, I won't say that I went vegan overnight. I made my decision, and I knew that I would need some time to transition. because I had a few habits like tea, and I had to figure out what to, replace cow milk with in my tea. So it was like just 3 to 4 months I took, and I went vegan after that. When I had my pregnancies, I have 2 children. One is 8.5 and the other is 4. And when I became pregnant, I was obviously, like Neetu said, I was already well versed and well into my, years as vegan. So I planned my pregnancies, though a lot of people in my family were apprehensive, and they said that, just for these few months, please relax. At least even if you don't eat meat, start taking dairy products at least. But I, did not, because I mean, for me, it was impossible to go back again. And I kept telling myself, even during my pregnancy months, I kept telling myself that I could do it and I would not go back to, something so unethical. And there must be a way out, and I will figure it. And I did my research. I actually went to dietitians, and I had 2 very successful 0-issue pregnancies. I had very smooth labor, and my children were born really healthy. And I mean, I think I cannot say that it was just because of my vegan diet, but I would say that being on vegan diet did not hinder anything in my pregnancy. That's what I can say. So I have had a very smooth journey, and my children are vegan now, and I do not see any health issues with them, and they are growing fine. Their parameters are good. I keep I get their checkups done by a pediatrician every 3 months, every quarter, and they are doing good. So I am very happy to be here, and I would like to share my story and my experiences with other parents who are considering to transition their children.
Very nice, very nice. So from your introduction, I can understand that where there is a will, there is a way, right?
Absolutely.
So you wanted your pregnancy to be vegan, and it happened, and you figured out the ways to have a vegan pregnancy. Even that time there was no Facebook support or anything. Veganism was not much into picture. You found out how to go about it, and it is really awesome, very inspirational. And I think if I was in your place, I would definitely have wanted to have a vegan pregnancy, really, because when I was pregnant, I was made to eat a lot of ghee and everything, so I became like a balloon. And after that, I had a very difficult time to come back to my shape. So so we have Neetu also who had a vegan pregnancy. So how did you go about it, and what was it like? How was your family asking you to not go about it? Maybe how was it like? Were they very supportive? And you tell us, yeah.
So family has never been supportive.
Who is it?
Since the time I became vegan, I think my mom thought I've lost my mind. She thought that I will probably disappear from the face of this earth, and she would invite my friends over to chug glasses of milk down my throat. So that is my mom, right? But let me tell you this, post 23 years now, she's a vegan herself, okay? Now, so when I was pregnant, she would call me every day from India to say, whatever you're doing to yourself, I don't care. Don't do it to the child. Don't do it to the child, And I kept saying, Mom, don't worry. I'm taking care of myself. The child is going to be very healthy. And she kept, every time I went for a checkup, she'd call up and say, everything normal? Everything normal? So, like it was always this apprehension that something is going to go wrong. But let me tell you, my son was a really chubby, big baby. And he was healthy, and he is healthy, So when she came for my delivery, she was very happy. So pregnancy, a lot of people came up to me, family, friends, to say, you must not do this. This is not the right time to push your ideals, this child does not deserve it. And I just stuck to I said, I have done my research. I know I am healthy. I know my child is going to be too. And I was working, so I'm an attorney, and I'm a Wall Street attorney. So I would go to work at 7:30 in the morning with a bag full of stuff, because I wouldn't get vegan in the cafeteria as much. So I'd go with a bag full of my stuff, and I would come at 12:30 in the night. That was my schedule every single day, to 12:30 in the night. but I don't know how, it was just the happiest time of my life. I was working hard, I was eating well, and I was having a good pregnancy. So anybody who's thinking about it, I would really say, do your research. I'm telling you from my experience, but really do your research from other moms who've had very, very healthy vegan pregnancies. I don't think I ever had doctor tell me, oh, you're doing something wrong, or your child is not growing well. Everything just went very beautifully. And if anybody has any questions, you can reach out to me. I'm happy to answer. But eat well. Don't starve yourself. I mean, being vegan does not mean that you have to eat less or you have to only eat salads. Remember, vegan diet is a complete diet. You'll get your proteins, your vitamins, all your nutrition from the diet. You don't need meat, because meat is just empty protein, right? There is no nutrition. Eggs are full of cholesterol. You don't want that to go in your child. When you're eating plant-based whole food diet, you're getting everything in that one plate. And being an Indian, I always say this, that our vegan diet, our Indian thali is the most full, complete meal that there can be. There's dal, which is protein. There's sabzi, which is greens or whatever vegetables you put. That's all of your vitamins right there. Then there is roti or rice, which is your grains and your fiber. So you get everything in that. And then if there's salad, nothing like it, But there is so much food out. Like, our thali is a complete meal. Just go with that. Go with what our ancestors have been saying. You don't need your paneer, you don't need ghee, really don't need those things. You're just going to be adding unnecessary things to your body. And cruelty to the animals, definitely. I mean, that is my motivating factor. I don't want to, for my for eating, I don't want to hurt anybody, even the smallest organism. So try it out. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to answer all those questions.
Yes, wonderful, Neetu. So it's like why we should harm another animal for our selfish purpose, right? So Manisha, I think you had mentioned when we talked earlier that there were infant like the formula milk and all those that were available. So what do you have to say? Anything like other vegan options in that formula milk available?
Yes, I very recently, NAN has launched a vegan formula for infants. But that was, I think, around the time I had my second baby, NAN had already launched their vegan formula. But I can just tell one thing to, young mothers or, people who are actually planning a pregnancy, that, we do not actually need these infant formula. They are just marketed and pushed to us. Because I'll just share my experience with my second baby. The first one was not born. I mean, he has not been vegan since birth. He transitioned and he became vegan at the age of 4 after a certain incident, after I shared certain things with him. He made his informed choice. I understand a lot of people might say that 4 years is not really an age when a child can decide, but at 4 years, a child can decide whether or not he wants to harm another animal for eating. So that apart, now let's come to the topic of formula. These infant formula and these cereals, etc., Cerelac and stuff are things that are marketed to us. Our children do not need that. Because when I had my second baby, I exclusively breastfed her till 6 months. And from the age of 5 months, I started giving her, dal ka pani, like, pulses water, dal ka pani. And someone told me that even a little bit of that starch, the rice water, when you boil rice water and when you strain out the rice water, that's very rich in carbohydrates and good vitamins and starch, B vitamins, etc. So you can start giving that to her. So till 6 months she was exclusively breastfed along with dal ka pani and chawal ka pani, rice water. After that, like after 6 months, I introduced her to solids like all kinds of fruits, vegetables, grains, etc. And yes, there used to be times when she would want to suckle on something. And probably at that time I was not, I mean, whoever has breastfed will understand these cycles of nursing, that sometimes it might happen that the baby is wanting to nurse and wanting to suckle, but you might not be so full of milk to be able to provide her with that. So it used to happen at certain times when she was sleepy and she wanted to suckle. So just for those times, I used to keep a formula available. And at that time, I used Nusobi, and Nusobi is a soy-based infant formula, and I used Nusobi. But that was like maybe not even 1/10 of her, daily food intake or whatever she used to have throughout the day. That was just maybe an ounce or two on certain days, not even every day. So certain days I used to give her Nusobi. So yes, it's possible, but I also understand that every mother might not be lactating enough or making enough milk for the infant. So for those mothers, yes, soy, not just soy, like dairy-free infant formulas are available in the market right now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Manisha, for that nice insight. Like mostly what I understood is like start with the natural plant-based food like dal ka pani and all that for the kids, and the soya milk when they are comfortable or able to digest it properly.
Yes, so I weaned her to soy milk when she was 11 months to a year. And I mean, soy is a little heavy because it's high protein. So it's a little heavy on the infant stomach. So this is how I introduced soy milk to her. Like I first started with maybe an ounce, just 1 ounce of soy milk in a day. Not in a day, maybe in one feed I used to give her just 1 ounce, and I used to see how she tolerates it. So obviously the first 1 or 2 days she pooped a little more than normal, but that was fine. Like I think it just she tolerated it within 3 to 4 days. It was fine. Like she tolerated it really well, and within a week I started giving her like 4 to 5 ounces of soy milk every day. That was when she was a year old. So I think anyone can, whoever wants to wean their babies to plant-based milk, can start with soy. And then gradually, after they are older than a year or 18 months or so, they can gradually try any kind of plant-based milk. Because right now, with my children, I try almost 14 to 15 kinds of plant-based milk, and they are doing absolutely well on that. There is no dearth of plant-based milks like oat milk, almond milk, millet milk, hemp milk, coconut milk. So actually I do all of these milks in rotation because each of these milks has a separate nutritional profile. Each has separate benefits. So I do all of these milks in rotation so that they get all the nutritional benefits from these milks.
Awesome. Very comprehensive reply. Very nice. So I think everything is covered related to plant-based milk in that. So like even when the new baby is born, when we mothers breastfeed the baby, after like that is the first milk that the baby actually has. So thereafter also the baby has some stomach problem if the mom is having very heavy food or something. So poop will have that or those things. So just imagine when we start the baby on giving the cow milk, which is for cow's baby, and then people think that cow baby is essential for bones and everything. Calcium, main thing is calcium. So Hima, I would like to ask you, like people say that calcium is very much required and we get it from cow's milk and dairy products and all that. So when you like you are raising vegan kids, so how the calcium requirement of your child is being met on a vegan diet?
I've answered these questions so many times that I don't feel like anymore, but I know I should. It's just really funny. It's just really funny because we've all, especially like somebody said, in India, it's a very predominant vegetarian diet. If you remove the curd and the milk and the ghee and the, not really cheese, but mostly ghee. So yeah, I started him off on ragi porridge. So ragi has a load of calcium in it, and my mom would make this porridge powder with almonds in it and maybe 1 or 2 other grains in it. So like maybe for the first few days when I started him off without the ghee. So like there were days when when I gave him some ghee, and we used to make the porridge with milk and then add the ghee and then the jaggery. So the moment I went vegan and I said, this is it, from tomorrow I'm not going to do anything and I'm not, and all right or not, nothing. I was fine. After a few days, I did some research, went on Facebook, found these communities, people talking, women talking about how they're raising their children vegan, and it's so good and it's so amazing. It just spoke to me. And yeah, ragi being ragi, I didn't have like a hint of doubt in my mind, and almonds. So after that, it's just everything. I mean, all of the foods have a little bit of everything in it. And when you do your research and when you start learning about these things, there's just like I said, I don't have a perfect answer for anything, because it's just so funny to me. We've all eaten these things, yet we doubt each and everything. I'm sorry. I'm just putting my thoughts out there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so when actually we start our vegan journey, that is the first time we start understanding what goes in our food, right? Before that, it's like all our traditional food that we are eating. We don't even think about it and simply eat, okay, this is this. Then we think, oh, I'm going vegan. So let me say, where will I get calcium? Where will I get these vitamins and all those things? We start understanding, dissecting the whole
suddenly
food.
Feel like you are so deficient in everything.
Yeah.
Like, where is the protein? Oh my God, where's the protein? Where are the animals getting the protein from?
Yeah, definitely, sure. So yeah, Anu, you would like to add anything about the calcium aspect of food?
Yes, like you said, Drushti, that we start to understand our food. So I discovered barley. It is high in calcium, and I also learned that oranges have calcium. All are, we study that orange, we relate to vitamin C. But yes, so I try to include these two besides all other things. So, and thankfully my daughter really loves barley, that little gooey thing. So she really likes it. Yeah, and like Hima was telling, we have to include everything in certain quantity. And yeah, actually now I'm not even thinking, and I'm actually reflecting back, how did I do that?
Yes. Okay, nice. And Neetu, what is your take on calcium? Would you like to add anything about this?
Like Hima said, before we turned vegan, we didn't care what we were putting in our bodies. And we were surviving and thriving very well. Suddenly we turned vegan and we have all these concerns about, we're thinking of turning vegan actually. And we have concerns about, where will I get my protein from? Where will I get my calcium from? Where will I get this from and that from? Just to let you know, milk, we say that milk has a lot of calcium, and that's what has been said, over and over in all the advertisements and everything. Do you know milk, the cow's milk harms our body? It takes calcium away from our bones because the protein in the milk is so high that it actually has to digest that milk. Remember, that milk is not meant for us. It's meant for a baby calf, right? And the calf is like, a big animal getting bigger into a real big cow, right? Now, we are not that big. Our breast milk is really thin. It's almost watered. If you water down like 10 times cow's milk, you'll get breast milk. That's how thin our milk is. Now, to digest the protein that's there in that milk, our body has to use the calcium from our bones. So you'll see people who are like hardcore milk drinkers, like dairy. Like India is very dairy heavy country. Right? You'll see a lot of osteoporosis, you'll see a lot of bone issues, whereas if you give up that milk, your calcium retains itself, and you can get calcium from so many different sources. There's so many plant sources that you can get calcium from. I don't even think about it actually anymore, but I've seen, older people, they get bent down, they have knee issues, and you've seen in India, we have so much knee issues. It's all because the milk that we're taking in, we are like having it in dahi, paneer, we're having it in ghee and milk and chai and everything else. It just takes away the calcium from your own body. You're actually depleting yourself. So eliminate your cow's milk, buffalo milk, or whatever milk you're having, and just you will retain the calcium that you were born with. Really nice bones and everything else.
Yes, awesome. So, yeah, so I also like give sesame seed balls to my kids because it is also a rich source of calcium. I have found out, and luckily my both daughters like it, and they happily eat one sesame ball laddu every day. So that's nice. So now, parents would like to know, like, what a vegan child eats in a day, like what is the breakfast like, then lunch, then maybe evening snack if it is there, and dinner. So Hima, starting with you, how you plan the food for your baby? What all do you give to make it like a very wholesome, balanced kind of diet?
Yeah, so if it has to be really on point and I have to be really strict with getting him to be on like a really good wholesome diet, a typical day would be would start with a juice or a fruit, and then either it start with a smoothie most of the days, although sometimes doesn't really like the smoothie. You know, it's not a very pleasant thing to look at, but it's got a lot of nutrition, and I make it as sweet as possible, adding some dates and things like that, chia seeds, flax seeds, maybe a couple of nuts, not make it too thick, but yeah, there is a half a banana, like a Kerala banana, and some spinach leaves. I know it becomes a little too much. I try to keep it on the down low, but some spirulina powder, all of that, because it packs up with nutrition. Like in one glass, you like make up for almost, I would say, at least two to 300 calories easily. But yeah, depends on how much he drinks. After that would be a porridge, but sometimes it kind of changes because they are kids and they don't really want to eat the same thing every day. Porridge would be maybe oats and some rajgira seeds or some ragi porridge. But otherwise, there is breakfast at home, which is like a rice vermicelli, lemon vermicelli, or other typical South Indian breakfast. He loves dosas and idlis, and again, it's healthy. It's not so bad. It's really healthy. Then he would maybe have like a fruit or another juice later on. Sometime in the day he would have like a snack of a granola bar, again with oats and dates and some seeds, and everything's homemade. I don't usually buy anything from the store. We make it at home. Lunch would typically be a millet and a curry, either a dal or a curry, and some vegetable to go with. um, yeah, that's it. It's like really simple, really basic, but very, very making sure that he's getting enough nutrition. Basically, vegan diet is all about being nutrient dense. I wouldn't say vegan diet. I would say a whole food plant based diet. Yeah. So evening again, he'd probably have like an almond milk or any other milk. I make walnut milk, almond milk, or coconut milk. One of these, and then the dinner would probably be like a whole grain, multi-grain atta rotis or chapatis with some veggies. Or sometimes we kind of, gone with some white rice because he does enjoy white rice. I try to keep it to something like a whole grain, with unpolished rice, like a red rice or a brown rice. But yeah, you have to be flexible. It has to be tasty. It has to be fun. But at the same time, it really does have to be healthy. So yeah.
Nice, nice. So looks very, very nice, and looks very meticulously planned. Is it like that? Or it is like on the go?
Like that. It's become like that. It's like when you think about it, like I said, everybody asks these questions. If you're not eating like this, then how are you eating is my question, right? If you're like really thinking about staying healthy and not going to a hospital, and let's face it, going to the hospital is the worst thing you could do right now. Doctors don't know. I mean, I'm sorry if there are any doctors here, but I do not believe in the whole going to the hospital and going to a doctor, because really what we eat is our medicine. Like literally, food is your medicine. And after I've realized how harmful most of the foods are, especially packed foods and animal protein, animal foods, you can literally be healthy keeping a really good diet. I mean, I do not really believe in how much when we buy organic, I really hope it's organic, but I don't know. I can't vouch for it, but I still go by there because at least if the vegetables are coming from one farm to that place and not going around the town, I would rather have that. So yeah, it is a little bit of a tricky situation when it comes to organic and whole foods, but at least staying on whole foods makes your chance of going to the hospital like slash it by almost 90%. Touch wood, we don't get, colds and coughs and fevers and all of that. And I feel like it is immunity and it is what we eat. So it takes a little bit of like really thinking, not even planning, I would say. When you think about it, what else would you want to eat? Whole
Yes.
food is what you want to eat.
Yeah, going back to where we were, like eating the fruits naturally, as much as in their whole natural form, that is the way to go. So yeah, so there are some like in the normal whatever non-vegan food or in a vegetarian diet, there is this curd and yogurt and everything which are set like a probiotic which will keep the gut healthy and had help the bowel movement and everything like that. So Manisha, would you like to let us know how do you plan to have how do you plan or make probiotics which are vegan?
Okay. Yes, I make a lot of different types of curd. Like peanut curd is, any type of plant-based milk will make curd. But my personal experience has been that peanut curd sets really well. Curd with peanut milk sets really well. You also have cashew curd and coconut milk. I have not had much success, but yes, coconut milk makes fairly good curd. It is a little runny, it is watery, but cashew milk and peanut milk sets really good curd. And sometimes for peanut milk curd specifically, if you want to garb the smell, you want to turn down the smell of peanuts a bit, you can add brown rice. You can add any rice for that matter, but I add brown rice because brown rice is again healthier than white rice, and it has more protein and fiber and retains more B vitamins than white rice. So I add a bit of brown rice milk to the peanut milk, boil it, and the procedure for setting that curd is exactly the same as cow milk curd. And like a lot of people find it really overwhelming that you have to first make the milk and then set the curd, but I can tell you it's just there in the mind. Because I have a full-time job, and even then I managed to set curd, regularly for almost 6 to 7 months of the year. My children do not eat their meals without curd. And except for the extreme winter months like December, Jan and Feb, I think from March to October, all of these months, every single day my children eat curd in their at least lunch, if not dinner. They have curd in lunch every day. And I managed to make all kinds of curd like peanut, cashew, even oat milk makes good curd, but it is a little slimy. But when you actually make raita out of it, or if you just have it in a bowl with sugar and little bit of black salt, it tastes really good. It's a little slimy, but that's okay. So I can manage to make all of these curds. And just that grinding, it's just there in the mind. The process of grinding and straining will just take you an additional 10 to 15 minutes, not more than that. And then you just boil it and let it cool, add starter, and put it in a warm place to set. And that's all that is there to it. And I would just say it's just a mindset. If you compare your trouble or whatever the trouble, if you consider it quote unquote trouble, that trouble is nothing compared to the suffering of animals, the suffering that millions of mothers are going through, and the destruction of motherhood. If you look at it that way, then I think this is not even a trouble. It is I would say the minimum, the least that you can do actually. So this is how I set my curd. I have shared a few recipes on certain vegan groups, and even on YouTube there are plenty of recipes of peanut milk curd, and you can follow the same procedure for all kinds of milk that you want to try or experiment with. Yes, I forgot to mention another kind of plant-based curd, and that is watermelon seed. Even watermelon seed curd makes really good. Watermelon seed milk makes really good curd. And I have actually made dahi vada and chach out of it. I've served it to my guests, and no one could tell the difference. Even with peanut curd, I have made dahi vada in one of my in my son's birthday, and few people have actually come and complimented me and said that the dahi vada is really good, but I did not say that it is made with dairy free curd, because that mindset is there. If I tell them, then they'll say, oh, that is why it tasted weird, but actually they came and said that it was exceptionally good. So that's what I want to say, that it's just a mindset, a mind block somewhere. Otherwise, it is not very troublesome to make any of these curds. The procedure is just the same, and it just takes a little bit of soaking overnight, grinding and straining. That's the only extra procedure, and that's
it. Correct. Nice. So once you get into the thing in the whole process, like once it becomes like a habit, then you don't feel that, oh, I have to do this. Initially, there will be something, because that's a change from what you were doing earlier. So really,
also if you make it in large batches, like what I do, I generally, whenever I set curd, I do not make it less than a kilo, because I know my children will be eating every day. Sometimes even I make other things like curry or chaach. In extreme summer months, we drink chaach every day, and my entire family drinks chaach. So I need a big batch. So I do not make it less than a kilo of curd. So a kilo of curd lasts me generally 3 to 4 days. So it's just maybe like once or twice a week I have to set curd. So I think that is not very troublesome at all. Just plan ahead and make it. Like, it doesn't take much of a trouble.
Yes, nice, awesome. So really, we look forward to Manisha's guidance, because she is a practicing vegan mom. And so much research into what goes into making all this probiotics. So Neetu, like we all know that there are certain things which we get only from microorganisms, or from there are all the vitamins which we get from plants, right? But there are certain things which we do not get, like B12. B12 is something which we do not get from plants. So are there any supplements which you take as a family and you give to your kid also for B12, and any other supplements for that matter?
So we do take B12 supplements. The reason for that is because, we get a lot of slack, vegans get a lot of slack from non-vegetarians and non-vegans, saying that, oh, you still are deficit of B12, that means your diet is not complete. Whereas I stick by a vegan diet, saying it's a complete diet. The reason I have to take a B12 supplement and give it to my son and my family is because B12, let me give you a little bit of how we get it. B12 is found in the soil, right? And the way we used to get it back in the day was we used to just pluck the carrot or take the fruit from the soil and eat it. Maybe just wash it a little bit in the river, eat it, right? It doesn't take care of it. The microorganisms, the B12 would still be there in that, and we are consuming it. That's the way animals are consuming it too. Animals are not washing it and 3 times, 4 times washing the same thing. Now, what's happened with the modern farming, the modern way of eating, is that we've really sanitized everything. We've sanitized our food, our water, everything has been sanitized, right? So whatever we were getting naturally from our soil has already been washed away. So there goes your B12, right? Unless I'm like just plucking it and eating like in a jungle or something, I'm not getting my B12. So it's only about the modernism of farming. So it takes away my B12, I have to supplement it. I need it. Everybody needs it. But the way humans were made, we were not made to like sanitize, clean, wash. We're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to eat like animals. I don't see a dog or a cow like cleaning and making the apple shine and then eating it. It doesn't happen that way. So we're losing the B12. I need to take it through supplements. It's very easily available. You get vegan B12 supplements in the market. You can just order on Amazon.com. In the US, it's available in health food stores. I'm sure it's available in India as well. I know my brother orders in India from Amazon. So you can get it. And you don't need to consume an animal for that. Absolutely not.
So, as you rightly mentioned, I think even the animals are deficient in this B12 these days. Like, because instead of grass, they are being fed grains, and that are also very cleaned and washed and all. So they are fed B12, and then people, when they consume milk or meat, they get indirectly as a supplement from them. So why do we do that, right? So yeah. Anu, would you like to add more on this part about the supplements part?
We also make sure that the multivitamins we do take, and I don't take neither me or no my kids take it all through the year. We take for a few months and then we stop. We take, so initially, when I made this decision, it was all because of my mom's support that I could continue, because like Neetu was telling, so I never felt that I'm doing something wrong, because mom was with me. And I never got the whole body checkup, blood tests and all done for my kids. But 2 years ago, I was very anxious. We got the blood test done, and when we were waiting for the reports, and I was really actually praying that everything needs to be all right. Otherwise I'll get from everywhere. So I'm not taking care of my kids, I was really hoping, and thankfully the blood reports came, and we have everything where it should be in that particular range. And also I know that the multivitamins we are taking are actually working. They're not just fake and for the sake of it. So yes, it was a big relief. Yeah.
Thank you, Anu. So for information of everyone here, we will be extending this session for 15 to 20 minutes more. So please be with us. Hope you are all getting so much information from this session. So yeah, moving ahead, like now these kids are growing vegan, and they will be mixing with their peers, right? They go to schools, they go to play with friends around. So when they mix with the kids, then obviously there will be questions, right? That what are you eating and what have you brought, and like that. When they go for a birthday celebration, or whether if there is any event in any place, or be it school or in the building, or in your family, then people will offer them food, non-vegan food, and there will be different. So how do they handle this situation, Anu? I would like to know from you.
So my son was 7, and the daughter was just 1 year plus. And when they saw me not consuming something, especially my son, he asked me, and I explained to him. And I am one of those parents who believe that when you can show your kid, in the Bahubali, the head being chopped, you can definitely show what happens in the slaughterhouse, or how the male chicks are being churned. So I showed him, I told him the facts, and he, there was an emotional connection he could make. And when he goes out, he's vocal about it. He explains, no, it has cow milk, I'll not take. And when he was, little, he used to, anything you give or anyone gives, first thing he'll ask, is it vegan? So he was educating the people around. And my daughter is, I think she is a big rebel. So she will not just make sure that she's not eating, but she'll try and her friends also eat what she's eating. So I think when we explain to kids why we are vegan and how is it helpful for us, for our health, for our environment, they are able to communicate it better, and they are not feeling bad about, or they are missing on things. So that emotional connection, if it is there, I think we are good to go.
Wow, wonderful. Yeah, Neetu, what is your take on this? Like, how when your kid goes and meets friends, and does he feel that he is not having something which his friends are having? And how do you explain him about like what is correct and what veganism stands for?
So he was always a vegan, so there was no transition period for me. But then when he started to go to these birthday parties, for example, or in school, when they have these parties where they're being given cupcakes which have eggs and milk in them, and I would have to request a teacher, oh, because you're having this party, can you make sure there's a vegan ice cream or there's a vegan cupcake available for him? Now, his is different from all the rest of the kids in the class. So I remember him coming at 3 or 4 years of age and telling me, Mom, why is it so different? Why am I getting something different? And I know he was not going to be saying, I don't want it, but he just was curious to know why. So I told him, how there's only, you're a superhero, how there's only one Spider-Man, one Superman, you're the vegan boy, the vegan superhero. So he felt great about it. And at that age, he felt so like special. Oh, I am the vegan superhero. I'm here to save the earth and all the animals in the earth. So he, like, from that, we started from there. And then he will be very proud about like his different colored cupcake and his different ice cream. He would say, oh, my neighbor wanted the same ice cream, So that kind of put him through like, that and making him feel good about himself. Now he's a little bit grown up, and he totally understands why he's been given different, or he's not been given anything. Like birthday parties, for example, like I would always ask the host if they can arrange something for him. And if they say, oh, I'm not sure and whatnot, I always offer to send a slice of pizza, because pizza is like the staple. So I always say, I'll get a vegan pizza for him. No big deal. Just heat and give it to him. I'll send a cupcake with him, just to be prepared. Most nowadays, because it's so easily available for us over here, hosts are more than happy to bring it for him. But if there's anything, he always takes his little bag and gives it to them, and it's not a problem at all. Like, he understands now. So, but as a little child, you can always talk to them about being different, saving the planet, being the superhero, and they really buy it. Kids are born with compassion. They're born with that compassion, right? That is why, if you realize, we always give kids these little teddy bears and this stuffed cow and stuffed sheep, because they gravitate towards these fuzzy, cute animals, because we are born with that compassion. Somewhere along the line, we kill it, our social conditioning changes it. But, they would always say, look at a puppy or a cat and say, oh, so cute, because that comes so naturally to them. But what happens is, unfortunately, we kind of kill it, right? Like we say, don't touch the cow. Don't touch the cat. Don't touch the dog. Don't touch the stray animal. And, they kind of become that. But we should try to, if we nurture that and let them connect the dots of why we're not doing this, they'll do it themselves. You don't even need to do it for them.
Yeah, definitely. So that social conditioning that goes along, like the society conditions the kids to see things differently, which is not natural to humans. Like if you give an apple and a rabbit or a baby pig to a baby, naturally the kid will eat the apple and play with the baby pig or rabbit baby, right? So that is so natural to us, but over the period of time, we are losing that sensitivity as we grow, as the society conditions us, our family conditions us. So yeah, that was the part about like going for a birthday party and all that. So other part is like going on a vacation. Okay, that is the most tricky part, I think so, because when we go on a vacation or a travel, only on a vacation, we go at our family's place and cousins' place and all that. So how do you plan it, Anu? Anu, how do you plan your travel and visits to family and during vacation times? What do you do?
Yeah, so when we go to holiday in India, I think that is the toughest time for me, because it's not the food, it's the people I have to handle. So that becomes the toughest part. And I prepare my kids and I tell it's okay, it's normal. And we have been like that. Mama was not like that, but Mama is like this now. And I'm a little strong head because I know what I'm doing right, and my mom supports. So and they will say, yeah, what to make. So it's just what you are making. Just don't do the ghee ka tadka. If you anyways want to do the tadka, just do the oil ka tadka. And if there is yogurt, we will skip the yogurt. Sometimes I've been able, if you are staying for a longer time, I've been able to make the yogurt or curd there. And we avoid paneer. So that's when we travel in India. And but when we go around on holidays to other countries and stuff, what I have done and I have been able to survive is with theplas. So I get lots of theplas done, because we don't we plan, but we don't know how it is going to be there. So we have the big bundle of 50-60 theplas depending on the number of days, and some cookies, and some biscuits. And this is just for the emergency. And we also, it's a mutual understanding that we are going to spend on touring around and eating food, good food, and not on shopping. So that's an understanding. I know I need to be in control. And and what happened that we started to enjoy the cuisine of different countries and cultures. Otherwise, my mindset, and I was passing it to my kids, that only Indian. But once turned vegan, we realized that other cuisines also have so many good dishes with vegetables. So we just explore, and few apps are there like Happy Cow or Billion Veg, which help us to explore and find out which is the best place to eat around. And we try to eat a good breakfast. Most of the hotels and now have the sourdough bread, rice, veggie, salad. So we have a good breakfast, and we know that we have thepla in the back. So yeah, it's easy. Now it's easy, yes.
Nice. Okay.
Can I add something to this, Rushti? Can I add a little something to this?
Sure. Definitely need to.
So while traveling, I've seen one thing, and I live in a country which is mostly about meat, right? I've gone to restaurants where not even one dish except for salad is vegan, right? So what I have learned to do is that I'll tell them, can you replace the chicken in the pasta, for example? I mean, I know it's tomato based. I know I'll ask them about the egg in the pasta, the actual pasta. But if it is all good, I'll say, can you replace the chicken with broccoli and mushrooms? And they're happy to do that. Like I've had this experience with pretty much anywhere I go, I will just tell them to replace. Even just last night, we were there at a restaurant and there wasn't much vegan options. And we just told them, hold off on the cheese, on the flatbread. We had a flatbread. We said, hold off on the cheese. And can you just like make sure that the bread is no eggs? And they did it, and it was pretty like, all you need to do is explain. Sometimes people don't understand. So you have to tell them you're allergic, because I used to do that when there was not much vegan options available. I mean, nobody understood the vegan aspect. So I would tell them, I'm allergic. Can you make sure? And everybody gets really, stressed out about that. And then they will make sure that it's vegan. But it's easy. Even if you're traveling, you can just ask them, replace. Replace is the word. And if they don't understand the word vegan, just say allergic. It works every time.
Awesome, nice tips. So we will try out that. Maybe in US, the people are more accommodative, at least the restaurant chefs and the people of restaurant and hotels. In India, we have to still understand the scenario here. And yeah, but mostly if you go to any Sarvana Bhavan or any Tamil restaurants, you will get all your dosas, idlis and everything. Only we have to take care of the dairy part. So now Hema, I understand that you are a activist, and you want to make people aware about the animal liberation part. So does your son join you for activism, and how does he speak to people about animal cruelty, and what is there in his mind, like how he talks to people about animal cruelty?
So young age, I think from the time, so it's always been like there is a talk about animals and how we love animals and how we should love animals and how compassion is it's always been an important thing for me. It's not something that I learned, but it was just always there. I just bonded and I just connected with animals like I would never, I mean, sad to say, I would not connect with most people.
Hema, we are losing you. Your sound is not audible. Hello? Hema, are you there?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Can you just...
my internet connection is a little unstable. Just give me one second.
Sure.
So sorry about that.
No problem.
Can you hear me now, Drishti?
Yeah. We can hear you. Please continue.
Awesome. Yeah. So as I was saying, for me, having him to understand that being compassionate is the most important thing. Like I would always, I guess it's all in your own upbringing and what you see growing up. like I saw people not connecting with me, not understanding what I spoke about most of the time, not understanding how these sentient beings are beings and not just objects, and we treat them so much like objects. And I grew up in that. I was really negative growing up, and even like till the recent past, I was really negative. And especially when I turned into activism and into an activist, I was like, how can people not understand? Why don't they understand? And for me, like, there was never a protein deficiency in my head. Like, in my head, I never thought of protein as such a big deal. I mean, although I am in the field of fitness, even now I don't understand how it can be such a massive deal. So every little thing about harming animals was just like a complete no-no. So for me, having him understand how you have to be compassionate and how you have to understand what they're going through was very important. So I instilled that from a very, very young age. We would always talk about, and we had animals. I always rescued animals. I always fostered animals. So there was a puppy or two, a kitten or two. I had dogs at that time when he was born. I had 3 dogs at home. They were with me for about 13, 14 years. So he grew up with animals, and it was just very easy for him to understand that. And when he started coming to outreaches with me, my very, very first outreach, he came with me. And after that, it just continued. It became a part of his childhood, and it still is, and it'll be forever. So it was just how you talk to these children, and children are really, like, they are sponges. We all know that what you do is what they imitate, and what you do is what they want to do. So it's just so easy to bring in compassion in their lives and in their minds, because like you were saying, and everyone else was saying, compassion is something that we grow up with. It's not, we don't know that we have to eat a being. Like, we would just so easily connect with these animals, and instead we actually teach them. And somebody was saying, like, how do you teach a kid to take a stone or a stick and, hit them and chase them away? Dogs, all they want is love. And we are surrounded by dogs and cows, and like, it's our planet, theirs too, right? I mean, it's literally, that's all it is. We all coexist. We are put on this planet with them. We are not superior just because we are humans. I mean, yeah, we have this intellect which actually enables us to do things that are mostly wrong, sorry to say. But yeah, it was quite easy for me, because I'm like, you can see how I'm talking right now. It was all, for me, it was just, I've always been there for animals. Like, I would cry myself to sleep at a very young age. I was like, why is this happening to these beings when we are living such a comfortable life, when we have shelter, when we have food? And they don't have shelter, they don't have the food. That's okay, but also you subject them to such a horrendous life. And for what? Just so that you have like this moments of pleasure in your mouth, which you even forget about after a few minutes. That's it. Yeah. Like, it's, the exploitation is just somewhere else. Yeah. So yeah, it was really quite easy for me. And now he schools me. So anytime he sees one dog somewhere, he's like, Mama, let's go feed him. I'm like, that dog is really old. He's not going to eat the dry food we have. No, I won't get, like, I can't rest until I go feed that dog, until I go pick up that puppy. So it's really easy. It's so easy. It's just what you are and what you instill in them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, nice, really nice. So it's like all about the and the message that we give them. Yeah, so like sometimes question comes, and also some of the parents who want to transition, like when we try to substitute the cow's milk, we switch to the almond milks and cashew milks and all those things, and plus a lot of nuts and everything goes into it. So we had one private question wherein it was asked that whether this vegan parenting is for elite people. Is it affordable for normal people? Manisha, would you like to highlight on this question?
Yes. Like already, this has been discussed that, only after we go vegan, we start thinking about where to get calcium and protein and, vitamins from. When what we are actually, taking away from our food is meat and milk. Just these 2 items, and eggs. Just taking away eggs, meat and milk, makes us wonder if we are getting enough calcium and protein and vitamins. But actually it is so wrong, and we have been taught so wrong. And if you think about, and mostly I think this is a mispropaganda, or this is wrong propaganda to project veganism or to market veganism as as soy milk and almond milk and cashew milk. Actually, it is not. Yes, these are just fancy things that we include in our diet to replicate the taste of dairy products. But actually, this is not what veganism is, or what a vegan diet or a plant-based diet is. A plant-based diet is actually all the available fruits, vegetables, cereals, grains, pulses, etc. And our daily Indian food like dal, chawal, sabzi, this is enough, and this is nutritionally adequate to meet all our requirements. And I think I would what I basically do is I buy all kinds of vegetables. Like when I go to the market, I do not leave out any vegetable. Even if I see something unfamiliar and which I've never eaten before, I ask this person, I ask the vegetable seller, what you call this vegetable, and I YouTube and I find out a recipe for preparing and eating that. So I do not leave out any vegetable in the market that is available, that is seasonal and that is locally grown. So I think even we have to pay importance to seasonal and locally grown stuff. So I do not leave out any fruit or any vegetable, and I do not leave out on any cereal. So whatever is available, I buy everything and I eat that in rotation, and I am fine. Actually, honestly speaking, I consume very little almond milk and very little cashew milk because yes, they are expensive, and even though I have a full-time job and I'm earning comfortably, but even then for me to have almond milk and cashew milk on a daily basis is expensive. But then that is what I want to reiterate, is that even without, you do not need to drink almond milk every day, or you do not need to have cashew milk or cashew cheese every day to remain healthy, and also to enjoy your food. I do indulge in cashew cheese and almond milk once in a while, but that's like really once in a while. For daily food, it's just very basic Indian food and very basic local vegetables, seasonal fruits, all kinds of pulses, legumes, nuts, seeds, cereals, etc. So I am doing pretty well. My children are doing pretty well. Also, you can research, or you can find out on YouTube about cheaper alternatives. Like there are also a lot of cheaper alternatives that mimic the taste of cheese, like lots of seeds. There are seeds like watermelon seed, muskmelon seeds, sunflower seeds, which mimic the taste of cheese, and which are quite close in taste to cashew. So cashew cheese is like, if you have to make pasta, you do not always have to use cashew cheese. You can use any of these seed pastes, and they taste really good and wonderful. If you have some nutritional yeast on your hand, you can make any kind of cheese and your pasta is going to taste really good. So I have grave exceptions to this, to this mispropaganda or this misinformation that veganism is for the elite, because whenever people talk about veganism, they talk about almond milk, or people tend to follow these vegan celebrities online, which is where it becomes a little misleading, because if I'm following someone like maybe Djokovic, or maybe like any celebrity, like because they have huge amounts of money, so they probably will be having a almond milk smoothie every day, but I won't be, and I am a salary earner, an average Indian salary earner, and my daily food is whatever basic Indian fare, and I think this is the most affordable and the most sustainable diet that can ever be. Also, I would like to address this this fact that, like, a lot of people say that in our country so many children are malnourished, and malnutrition is on the rise, and people are suffering from extreme poverty, and here you are talking about veganism and talking about a plant-based diet when people do not even get 2 square meals a day. And that is precisely the cue. People are not getting 2 square meals a day. That is the cause of malnutrition, not plant-based food. the problem of malnutrition is because people are not getting a balanced plant-based diet. Like if someone is eating only rice and potatoes every day, that person will anyway suffer from malnutrition. But if children in poverty-stricken areas of India get all kinds of pulses, access to all kinds of pulses, legumes, fresh vegetables and fruits, then of course they will not suffer from malnutrition. And a lot of people are actually people are working in this area to provide nutritious plant-based meals to children in poverty-stricken areas to improve their level of nutrition. So it is important to address the cause of malnutrition and not blandly or blankly blame it on a plant-based diet or the non-availability of animal foods in their diet. It is not the unavailability of animal foods, it's the unavailability of complete balanced plant-based foods. So if you're saying that, like, and nowadays we have, government saying that we should include an egg in a child's diet, which is so wrong, because what is a child going to get from one egg? One egg just has 6 grams of protein. If you replace that with a thick bowl of dal, I think thick bowl of masoor dal for one egg, a child is going to get almost 8 to 9 grams of protein from one bowl of dal. So there's such a lot of mispropaganda and misinformation doing the rounds that I think we really need to address this, educate people, and find a way of making nutritional wholesome plant-based food available to poverty-stricken areas, and that will definitely take care of this problem of malnutrition in our country, or anywhere in the world where children are malnourished or where people are malnourished.
Definitely. So this brands which are coming into picture, the vegan brands, these are creating a lot of hype, and actually so many things we can make at home and make it really very light on our pocket, and it's affordable by everyone. That's what I understand. It's healthy and it's good for environment and our health also. So now Anu, when you transition your kids on the vegan diet, like Neetu and Manisha had vegan pregnancy and the kids were vegan from birth. So when you transition them on a vegan diet, were there any substantial health improvements that you saw in them, or something which was happening when they were on a vegetarian diet and it suddenly subsided or became lower after becoming vegan? So would you like to tell something about that?
Yes, it was a miracle, because my son, from birth till he turned vegan, he was surviving only on dahi chawal, the curd rice. And while sleeping, he'll have a glass of milk. I couldn't understand, and he was the first child. He didn't develop the palate, or what was it? And it became a shortcut for me also. Oh, the whole day he has not eaten anything, let me give a glass of milk. That's how, the conditioning, the cultural and everything. So I was also happy that, okay, at least he's having milk, at least he's having dahi chawal, yogurt rice. And then when he switched to this vegan diet, and I started, so that he doesn't feel, he was not so fond of pizza or anything, because we try to keep it very Indian at home. When we go out, yes, pizza and parties and all. So when at home, I try to, lay the table very nicely, make it like, fancy restaurant, with tablecloth and mats and spoon and fork and everything. And he would see me eating, and suddenly, I don't know what happened. He has been eating, thankfully, really well, eating every single vegetable except lady's finger. I don't know why. And in Singapore, when he goes for outbound trip, there are many parents who are worried about what and how will my kids eat. But when he comes back, he is the one, Amma, the first thing he says, Amma, the food was very good. And what did we eat? Amma, there was tofu, there was stir-fry veggie, and a lot of greens. And so I think it was a shortcut for him also. He knew in the mind that Amma will give me this, and I can just, cut short the eating time and feed on all the dahi chawal. And now it's totally different. He demands me to make these things, and he comes in the kitchen. He has started cooking, and I also realized that he used to fall sick very often, phlegm, cough, cold. That suddenly stopped. I don't remember, last time, touchwood, when we went to doctor for cold and cough. It has usually been for some fall. So it has to do with diet. And then I started reading how dairy, it increases the mucus in our body, acidity, and all those things. So a big change. And I'm really thankful for the switch I made.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a similar story. Like from February 2020, I stopped giving dairy product to my older girl, and suddenly she was getting so much mucus, respiratory infection because of coughing and all that. So I stopped it, and without I did not understand what happened. She was having so much often frequent respiratory infection, and when I stopped this, she has not been getting any infection, and I think that is due to stopping of dairy products, because she is allergic to it, I think so. And after stopping only, I found on internet that that was the reason. So yeah, Neetu, you have to add on to this something about health improvements in your kid.
Can I just add one thing? Sorry,
yeah.
Can I just add one little thing? This is something that I mention to everyone when we talk about dairy. Not only is it, not only are most of us are lactose intolerant, and that doesn't have to be like a major allergy, but it could be something like an acne or a wheezing or a cold or a cough. Like she said, it is mucusy. Like I remember whenever I used to have milk or coffees or whatever, like you could feel the mucusy feeling in your throat. But also one thing that when I heard, I was just in shock and also not very surprised, is girls hit puberty because of dairy. Like at a very, very young age, which is 8, 9, 10. I hit puberty at like 10. So mostly average girl would, average population of girls hit puberty by 9 or 10. And that is because of the proteins and the fats in dairy, which we can't obviously absorb at all because we don't have the enzymes to break down the protein. That was really shocking. And imagine it's actually changing the natural course of your body.
Yeah.
And yeah, it obviously causes a lot of cancers and all of that is anyway there. But this was really, really shocking to me. Neetu, please.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, the reason for that is because there's so much growth hormone that goes in the dairy industry right now. They add all these growth hormones in the food. They give them artificial injections. The cows get anything that, because they want the cow to grow into a full grown cow. So now then they can use her to, first they'll impregnate her and then use her for dairy industry. So all of those hormones are going into our bodies, and they especially affect the girl child. I've had friends who tell me their daughters got a menstrual cycle at age 8, which is very shocking for me. My son is 9, he's just a kid. And I feel like that's so young, and it's not right. We are actually genetically modifying ourselves in the process, like going back to the health part, like you asked me that question about seeing the change. Well, my son, like I said, we didn't transition, but I can tell you from the rest of his class. So, we live in America, cold country. So in the fall to, winter time, almost everybody in his class is getting ear infections, and it's a very painful thing, and kids take off because it is viral. It goes from one child to the other. My son has never got ear infections, and I'm very happy about it. I feel like no flu. We don't take flu shots because flu shots have egg in them, so we don't do flu shots. He's never had flu. He's never had ear infections. Never cough and cold. If at all, like seasonally, like if we took him out without enough like hat or jacket or whatever, you might get a little cough, ginger juice, and it goes away. Like it's that simple, So I see that the child is so different from the rest of the children, and mentally too. Like I feel he's very smart. He's a very smart kid. He absorbs everything so quickly. He's quick to answer. He plays soccer. Like he's very active, So I don't know. I'm really thinking it's the diet. Like I remember when I turned vegan, I was still in college, and I went on to go to law college. after that. And I was doing really well mentally. I was really like, I think my mind was clearer. I was able to like retain information much better. I came to America, went to law college again. So it was like, all that stuff, I've seen the change in me when I transitioned. So my son, like, I really attribute his active and like the mental, all of that stuff to his diet.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we have a chat box full of queries. Lots and lots of queries are coming. So I would like to invite Preeta to please start taking people questions here. If anyone wants to, Preeta, can you please, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have a whole bunch of questions that we got from the registration and here. Asha Desai is asking, what do you feed a baby when the mother, that is when a vegan mother has lactation problems? So Manisha, you had mentioned some of the infant formulas that are available. Can you just briefly just tell us the names of the infant formulas?
Yes, NAN is one brand which is, it has an infant dairy-free infant formula. Nusobi is one, which is soy-based and it is dairy-free. I think there are also other brands I cannot really recall, but yes, any pediatrician can recommend it to you, because I remember I had a friend who was not vegan and neither was her daughter, but her daughter was lactose intolerant and she used to have really, colic, and she was always crying and in a lot of pain with the dairy formulas. And when she was taken to the pediatrician identified that dairy was the cause of her colic, and he prescribed some dairy-free infant formula. So I think either look up Nusobi on Amazon and you can order it, NAN, dairy-free NAN formula, infant formula on Amazon. Or you can just, consult your pediatrician and just ask him to prescribe some dairy-free infant formula.
Okay, thank you so much, Manisha. Our next question is from Devika. She's asking, what are the drinks or beverages that are alternatives to cow's milk or like almond milk and milks like that? Anu, could you share some of the alternatives that you use or that you're aware of?
I think Manisha had a big list. So any grain or seed or nut, you just have to soak it, overnight or 8 hours or something, and put the amount of water you need and churn it, and you filter it, and you have the milk ready. So here my kids, elder one has stopped taking milk. He says, he just turned 14 and he says, I'm no more a kid, I don't need milk. That's what he says. But the younger one, she loves the soy milk. And at times I disguise and add some other nut milks also, peanut milk, rice milk also, but that's not so nutritious. But it's really, really easy to make it at home.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Anu. Kushal had a couple of questions. I think the first one needs a detailed answer. So he'll be getting in touch with Neetu and Manisha on Instagram. He wanted to know about planning a diet before, during, and after pregnancy. So he should be getting in touch with you guys. His second question is how to stay away from doctors' prescribed medicine during and after pregnancy. Hima, would you know anything about that?
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
He's asking, Kushal is asking how to stay away from doctors' prescribed medicine during and after pregnancy.
During and after pregnancy, staying away.
Yeah.
I guess it's again like the age-old thing, just having a balanced diet. I wouldn't steer away or like stray away from that one fact, because that is the foundation of everything. If only we were taught about how to take care of our bodies, if only we were taught about how we should eat. Like the protein myth is there, but what about fiber? What about carbs? Carbs we think is like the enemy here. I mean, carbs is not the enemy. We need carbs for energy. If we didn't eat, like people do these keto diets or whatever, very restricted diet, and then they call the vegan diet being restrictive, which is not at all, because we have this array of foods balanced with all kinds of nutrition, and we end up calling a plant-based diet being restrictive, which is not. So like I said, a balanced diet is key for everything. But obviously when you're pregnant and when you're after delivering a baby, things you can't really digest well. And I remember that they gave me like this, really soft rice with some rasam and things like that, which is just to aid your digestion and get you back into, having to eat better. But other than that, I think I ate a lot of greens. I ate a lot of, like, even though I hadn't completely turned vegan, I do remember drinking milk, which feels disgusting right now. Other than that, there was no other non-vegan thing I would even put in my mouth. So it's just taking out the dairy again, if you're a vegetarian, and taking out the dairy and meat and eggs if you're a non-vegetarian. But it's just keeping it really simple, really basic, but balanced. I can't think about anything else other than that.
Okay, thank you, Hima. Kushal, I hope that answered your question. Neetu, would you like to take the question about the infamous soya bean that Gargi had?
Yeah, happy to. So let me first talk about what people consider soya. Soya has been given a bad name. There's a lot of myth around the fact that soya is not good for you. It can cause breast and prostate cancer. It can give women like features. It's been like a lot of things have, and it also causes reproductive dysfunction in your body. All of these myths, I was actually reading. I was very curious to know about it because we eat a lot of soy in the house. And I realized that this was an old study which was never kind of validated by the health professionals. It was only like, it's now people talk about, like now there's a new study which says soy is actually heavy on phytoestrogens, which are actually plant estrogens, which is good for your body. Whatever was being said earlier that it causes breast cancer, it's actually the opposite. It actually helps with breast cancer. It helps with prostate cancer. Unless you're doing an excess of it. I mean, anything you do excess of is not good for you, but unless you're doing an excess of soy, I don't think there's anything that's bad that comes out of it. It's very, very high in protein for people who are very concerned about protein. It actually helps you with reproductive functions. So I actually am shocked to know that people have given it a bad name. I would really ask you to do research on the word phytoestrogens. I can put it on in the chat, and soy. And then it'll show you actually scientific studies about how it is good for you. There's one thing though I would like to mention. Try to get non-GMO. Try to get non-GMO and organic soy if possible, because soy is, in today's world, soy is grown as fodder, as cattle feed, which is very low quality. So if you go to if you get a cheaper source of soy, like tofu or whatever, in some stores, it might be non-GMO, it might be GMO, it might be non-organic, which, anything that's GMO is not good for you. Organic is always going to be good for you. So try to get that if you can. It's not a very expensive, there's not much of a difference. I've seen in the supermarkets, there's not much of a difference in the GMO and non-GMO. So go for the good stuff and you'll be fine. And really do research about phytoestrogens and soybean. You'll get your answers. It actually helps you as a woman, for a woman. It helps men, and don't do excess of anything, as people say, but you're in a good spot. We do soy milk a lot in the house, and we are really thriving.
Yeah, I would like to add something to it.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So this question also has been asked a number of times, that it's not good for health, and I questioned to them. So what are the cows you think are fed with?
Yes.
And then then they start thinking, and I don't have to answer anything else.
Yes, good one.
Thanks.
Just
Yeah.
one more thing to add over there, and I wanted to add the same point as she said. Even if you are trying to steer away from soy itself, and you think that men get boobs and the estrogen part of it and all of that, you're anyway being fed by you are being secondarily fed the soy through the animals, and you're being fed GMO soy through the animals, because like Neetu said, that's what they're fed. Another very important thing to understand here is the whole soy not being good for humans was made up, like it is a thing that has been made up by the dairy industry to put soy down, that nobody understands and nobody cares about, which is a very, very, very big fact. So obviously dairy is going down, and they want to make sure that that doesn't happen. And that was where it all started to begin with. So yeah, phytoestrogen is what it is. It is a plant estrogen, and it does not harm us at all. In fact, when you consume dairy, it is estrogen from a mammal, which is very, 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 very harmful. We are not supposed to be drinking another mammal's milk, first thing, and you're definitely not supposed to be taking an estrogen from a mammal. And she is a lactating mother throughout. Even after she's had the baby, she's pumped with things again, which makes her produce estrogen. She is producing estrogen while she has been milked. So we are taking in estrogen, we are taking in pus, we are taking in blood, which is all allowed by the government. A percentage of pus and blood is allowed by the government, by the Indian government. And yeah, I mean, they're plants really cannot harm us. So yeah.
Thank you. Very comprehensive answer. We are taking the final question in the chat now. This is from Ancy James, and she's an athlete. So she's asking, as a mother, I am concerned about athletic nutrition as a vegan, as I am a marathoner and I'm training my 10-year-old girl in running for fitness. And as my daughter enters puberty in a couple of years, will a vegan diet be sufficient for her? And if yes, then what are the suggestions for such foods for endurance athletes? So Hima, since you're a fitness coach, could you tell us more about what Ancy would like to know?
Okay, is Ancy here though?
I'm not sure.
Okay, doesn't look like. She's my client. She just started as my client, and there she is asking this question. Okay, so firstly, again, I come back to the basic and the foundation of the whole thing, which is having a balanced diet. I just don't see this whole hoopla about what do I eat, how much do I eat. Like, I trained really, really hard. I do CrossFit, I do weight training, I do endurance, I like to be athletic. I'm not too much into bodybuilding, but yeah, it's about building your strength. So I like to move, I like to be agile, I like to be fast. That's what my training is all about. And so I mix in all the training, like I do weight training thrice a week, and then I do movement skill-based training thrice a week. And I just eat. I eat when I feel like eating. I eat as much protein. Like, I eat tofu every day. I eat beans every day. I eat veggies every day. I eat fruit every day. And like, there is a big thing about, oh my God, fruits are so high in sugar. Some fruits definitely are, but it depends on how hard you're training. So workouts are very, very important. How you're working out also is very important to what you're eating. If you're trying to burn calories and you're going on a weight loss program, then you go on a caloric deficit diet, which is basically you're eating foods that are low in calories but high in nutrition. But that is all it is, and you still are eating that much protein. And when you talk about endurance, obviously when you're running for maybe a 10K or a 5K or a 20K, 25K, whatever, you need more carbs. And when I say carbs, you need more complex carbs. So it is the same thing. It's like you eat and train the same way when you're a non-vegan to when you're a vegan. It's just that you're switching these ingredients. You're switching the animal protein to plant protein. You're switching the animal foods to plant foods. And you're still eating more carbs compared to, you're eating enough protein, but carbs, the intake of carbs is slightly higher. Again, nutrition is a very complex thing. I can't just, nobody can actually say this. If something works for me, that doesn't mean it has to work for another person. It might as well not work for another person. It's a lot of trial and error, but yeah, it is a no-brainer that a vegan diet, like there are so many people. I was just watching Rich Roll today. Rich Roll is like one of my favorites, who's an ultra man, and he did that when he was 51, and he's called the fittest vegan on the planet. And it's just so heartwarming to see these people go out and do what they're doing on a vegan diet. There is there are so many people, and they've all switched, all top athletes who've switched to a plant-based diet, and they're all saying the same thing, that they have never felt better, they've never been faster, they've never been fitter, they've never been lighter. And I don't know what else to say. Like, I don't have to sit here and tell anybody anything, because internet is there, and you just have to ask your question over there, and it's all there. So yeah, I would vouch for it any day, and it's really a no-brainer.
Absolutely, Hema. On a related note, there's a documentary that you guys can check out on Netflix. It's called The Game Changers, and it basically covers exactly what Hema just talked about. Yeah. So we've come to the end of our chat questions. I think Anthony had said he has a question. Can you unmute and ask me?
I have two questions. I think one question I asked in the last meeting we had with the doctor, I still want to repeat that. I think 3D printed meat could be a solution for people not eating meat, because McDonald's has already introduced a 3D printed burger, which is a vegan burger. And in fact, human parts could be 3D printed. And they are in the advanced stage of printing most parts of the body. That's question number one. Yesterday, the Nobel Prize was won by United Nations Food Program. And I was watching the live program yesterday, and they said, I'm not to discourage veganism or anything, just a reality check. They said on the why they gave the award to WHO is that 690 million people go without a meal every day. 1 out of every 3 children or 3 persons in the world are not nutritious. I think one of the speakers did mention about it. It is so there's a big issue of food security in the world, very big issue. And they said that's why there were 318 nominees yesterday. And the World Food Program president was in Africa, along with the Africans, supplying food when he got the news. So I think there's a big challenge for all of us, not only vegans, for all of us, because food is a problem, it's a major problem.
Yeah, who would like to take up this 2 questions?
I'll just begin, and I'm sure there are like people who are more informed or can give something more concrete on this, but I'll just begin because since I addressed this issue already earlier, I think we are not addressing the root cause, and that is worldwide, a lot of food, a lot of crops, cereals, soy, and other cereals are being fed to animals, and then those animals are being eaten. So if we cut animals from, they are layers, okay, the animals are here, there are currently, and this is a UN survey which says that currently we grow enough food to feed almost 12 billion people, 12 to 13 billion people. And while our population, the world population is right now 7.5 billion, we are struggling to feed the entire population when we are actually growing crops that can feed 12 billion people. So we are not understanding, or we are not addressing, or conveniently ignoring the root cause, that the crops or the grains that are available to feed 12 billion people are actually being fed to animals, and those animals are now being consumed by first world countries. So if we cut out the animals from between, if we remove this entire 70 billion land, 70 to 75 billion land animals are currently eating up a humongous amount of crops and grains that can actually feed 12 billion people. So which means that if there are no animals to feed, I think not only will we sufficiently feed the entire world population, there will be surplus of food. So we are not addressing that. And veganism is not the cause why people are not getting meals a day. It is capitalism. It is unequal distribution of resources. So I think, although I think this is out of scope of this particular session or out of scope of this discussion, but I seriously understand your concern, and I think as empathetic individuals, all of us are concerned about world hunger and about people going hungry and people starving. It personally pains me a lot when I see people starving or people not getting 2 square meals a day. But I think the issue is not veganism. The issue is not a plant-based diet or why people want to, leave animals off their plate. I think we have to, get rid of our oversimplistic approach to this problem and look at the root cause, which the meat giants, these fast food giants, the dairy industry, they will not let you, they will probably project this as something that can be addressed only by eating animals, when it is not. It is actually the opposite. So this is something that I can present, and even to address the cause of malnutrition in India, as I said, that the cause is not lack of animal proteins from their diet. The cause is the lack of a well-balanced, nutritious plant-based diet. So start feeding, start supplying or giving those children access to a well-balanced plant-based meal, like lots of dal and legumes and all kinds of vegetables in their diet, and see the improvement in their health and their level of nutrition. So that is the issue. Plant-based diet or veganism is not the issue. And I appreciate and I connect with this concern. It should be everyone's concern, for that matter, that food availability is a huge issue in the world, not only in our country, in the world. But I think that has to be addressed in a different way. So that's all I can, humbly put in.
Awesome, Manisha. It was like awesome.
Thank you.
Reply. I think Anthony got required answer. So we are like really well beyond our time, and it's time to wind up. And we would like to really thank all the moms, all the wonderful people who have joined us here. Thank you, Anu, Neetu, Hima, Manisha, and all the participants who came here to see this event and be part of this event. So this episode will be shared on the YouTube channel of Ulvili. So it will be acting as like a very information-rich thing for all moms, all the parents who want to transition their kids, as well as if they have any doubt about vegan diet, they can tune into this video and check. These all moms have so much nicely researched the whole thing, and they are giving the correct balanced vegan diet to their kids, and they are so confident about the path they have chosen, and they have done all the homework and they have cleared all the paths for us. So now we have to just go on the path of veganism and follow their footsteps. So really thank you, Neetu, Hima, Manisha, and Anu. Even though ours, we can say as a equal society, still ladies are the people who are the main people in the house, who have to take care of everything from kitchen to kids management to everything. So when you agree to be part of something, you have to make sure that you have taken care of everything. Before joining this session, you might have make sure that, okay, your son is taken care of or your daughter is taken care of, food is done and everything. So by doing this, you have shown that how important it is for you to spread the vegan awareness amongst the people. Thanks once again for joining us. And if you have any question, we have shared more questions to discuss personally with any of these wonderful moms here. We have shared their Instagram handles, as well as you can join the discussion on our WhatsApp group, and which is also shared in the chat box. Kindly join the group, and we will support you as a for transitioning your kids, or even if you want to become vegan, we will help you there. Next Saturday we have another wonderful session which is lined up. Darshana Majumdar is joining us. She is a Pune based animal activist, and she's doing wonderful in this line. And Preeta, would you like to add more on about like Darshana Majumdar? You have interacted a lot with her. Preeta, are you there?
Yes, Darshana is going to give us a talk on why do we do what we do. So it's basically about speciesism and why we treat different kinds of animals differently, and why we unconsciously make choices that we would never ever do ourselves. So it's really going to give us something to think about. So please join us next Saturday at the same time, 8 p.m. Thanks, Drishti.
Yeah, thank you, Preeta. So we have Raj here, Preeta here, and all the Ulvili team member, Abida, Riya, they have joined us. So this is the team which we have, and we are really proud of our team. And thank you once again, all of you, for joining us, and have a happy weekend. Enjoy. Thank you. Bye. Good night.